Well, I've gone to church as long as I can remember. I grew up in a Christian family. My mom was real emotional and very expressive with her faith and physically expressive with her love for her children and Dad. My dad was kind of stoic. I kind of came from that Eastern European, so I didn't get a lot of emotion out of him. The only time that I remember my dad expressing emotion was at a football game or a hockey game or a baseball game. But you ask my dad even today how he was able to take us kids to church every Sunday. His answer is, I told him to get in the car. My first recollection of church, however, is not so much a positive one. All I can remember is one Sunday, one side of the church yelling at the other side. We're not worshiping together, we're not focusing on a message. There was just a bunch of people yelling and crying, and that really still scars me to today. Growing up in the 70s and going to church, our churches were pretty conservative back then, and there was a lot of turmoil going on outside the church, and I really felt disconnected from anyone at the church. But very early in my life, I developed a passion for music, and I became a drummer, and that was where I found my purpose. I really didn't fit in at school. I was shy, but I really could pour my heart into the drums. I remember one dear old lady telling me, you know, you really probably need to find another instrument that's more compatible for church, because you're never going to be able to play your drums in church. So that was another thing that kind of sunk deep into my heart, and I kind of rebelled then as a high schooler. Played in a lot of bands in high school, and you know, got involved in the typical things that you would rebel against. Really was having a hard time. And until one summer I was invited to go to Pine Haven Christian Camp. I encountered forgiveness and acceptance that I was longing for, that I didn't really feel I had yet. And my relationship with God was so new, but it was so releasing to be able to be with people that had a passion for God and wanted to know more about Him. I made a decision to go to Bible college back in the 70s, 1978. I went there to please my mom and my dad and my grandma and my grandpa. They wanted me to be a preacher, and I wanted to do music. I wanted to bring my drum set to the Bible college, and they weren't quite ready for my Ludwig Octoplus Vistalite drum set in 1978, and so I kind of didn't fit in right away and was kind of known as kind of a rebel. And I still remember to this day another person who was mentoring me kind of came down pretty hard on me, and he said, you know, you're never going to amount to anything if you don't learn how to play by the rules. That was hard to hear, and I respected this person, and I didn't really know what he meant fully. All I know is that hurt deeply. And so I left school, and I really wanted to pursue music in the ministry area. But my goal became more self-centered and self-focused. I decided that I wanted to make it on the big stage. You know, I wanted to make it big in the music industry, and God had other plans for me, and He needed to do some work on me. It wasn't until 4 years ago that the bottom completely dropped out of my life, and I spiraled into chaos because of circumstances in my family. You see, my son made some poor decisions and struggled heavily with addiction, and it just brought turmoil to our family, and it was just so hard to see him suffer like he was suffering. I had been on my knees every day. I had been sharing with people every day my needs, and was okay with that. It was not a weakness. It was something that the body is called to do. When one suffers, we suffer with that person. When one rejoices, we rejoice with that person. But it seemed to snowball. At the same time, Alec was struggling with his addiction. My mom, she got what they call MRSA in the hospital. It's a hospital-acquired infection, and I watched her the next 55 days in the ICU slowly leave us. And it was extremely hard. She was one of the matriarchs, and the one that I told you about, who was the emotional one for our family, kind of held everybody together. And that day after Thanksgiving last year, she passed away. And that was tough. Depression and anxiety was common in my own life. Wasn't willing to share that with too many people. There were times that I would be on this stage and I just want to run. And my knees have been bothering me for years, but it just got so bad in the last 2 years. And I went in and was given that diagnosis and was told that I had to have a total knee. So in the midst of all the pain with losing my mom and the pain with almost losing our son and my own physical pain, I just had nowhere but to look up. Nowhere to surrender but to the one who surrendered his all for me. And I think the lesson that I've learned is that, you know, did I ever make that big stage? Did I ever make that big time speaking event or the concert that I've always wanted to be part of? No. But God has taught me that He has given me a story to tell with my everyday life. We all deal with life. We deal with illness. We deal with death. We deal with circumstances beyond our control financially. We deal with addictions. All those things we must daily surrender to God. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. My name is Ric Rozsa, and I am second.